Hello, good evening to all of you. I know it's a sunny day, but still, you are in my show. Let's talk to make a change. So that's why I really appreciate to all of you. I know it's a Easter holiday. You have some good time with your friends and family. During this COVID lockdown time, and it is quite nice day. Sunny. The weekend was good. So hope you all of are well and safe. Today I have a special guest. Might be you know who is she. She's the Madam Mayor of of Croydon. I would like to welcome our the guest councillor Maddie Henson. Hello, good evening.
Evening. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really looking forward to having a chat. Hello, everybody. I'm Maddie.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. I know it's Easter holiday and you have a family and the kids. And you give us the time to all our viewers, so we really appreciate. How's your week going?
I'm really sorry. The internet's a little weak. I think I missed the from what you just said. I apologise.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We want to know about you today. We want to know your story, how you came, how you became as a mayor, and the most thing is that's why my show's name is Let's Talk to Make a Change. So I hope while we will hear from you, it's gonna make a big change in our community, especially to inspire the women. So how's your time is going on at the moment as a mayor of Croydon?
Right. Well, at the moment, I'm actually coming towards the end of my time doing this. The appointment is for a year. In my case, it's going to be very slightly reduced from the year because of from taking over during COVID and logistics of doing annual council. During lockdown was always going to be an interesting experience. It's been an incredible from 9 or 10 months. I've loved every moment of it. But it's been tough and it's been wonderful and it's been funny and it's been heartwarming and it's been emotional and it's been hard and it's been every emotion you can imagine because the things that you see in a normal mayoral year are kind of extraordinary, but this year it's hard to even know where to start. I mean, you obviously started talking about from how I came to be mayor. Now, that's a bit more easy to describe. You start off by being a local councillor, which is what my dream was, to be a local councillor from quite a young age, because I always wanted to make a difference to the world. I know it sounds corny and a lot of politicians say that, but it's about just doing something to make everybody's lives better in some way. When I was growing up, I tended to be from the sort of person that people went to for advice and support. And there was one particular friend who I was from really close to, and she and I worked together some challenges that she was experiencing, and it left me with a real sense that I wanted to make a difference and to prevent other people from being in the same situation we were, where we didn't have the information we needed to help her. And coming from a politically motivated and minded family, my parents already from party members, it was kind of like in the next step, if you've got that drive and that desire to then use it to try and make some sort of difference in that way. I became a councillor when I was 26, 10 weeks after I gave birth to my first child. It wasn't from plans happening quite that way. We've been wanting a child and we've been trying for children for a long time, but that was from a joke one done by my sister, that picture. And we decided that it wasn't obviously something that was going to happen to us very easily, becoming parents. So we decided to focus on my getting elected. God, that's a few years ago. That was when I was at school, that one. And these photos are going to be
So that's why we want to know about the main fact is what you said, that you had a support from your family, what you said about your parents, and I think you had a dream while you were in school or while you were in the college. So is it right?
Yeah, I mean, this from some of my parents, I'm really, really lucky. My parents were and always have been incredibly supportive of everything that I wanted to do, but particularly from the physical life. And they, my parents were politically motivated and politically active, and as was my grandmother. In fact, it was my grandmother that took me to my first Labour Party meeting as an adult and introduced me to it. But I was the first member of my family to then seek office. The other person that I really, as these on the screen at the moment, particularly should celebrate, though, is the love of my life, Mr. Henson, my darling Mark, that we're there from the day I graduated. I couldn't have done a fraction what I did without the support of an incredible family behind me. He's my rock, and it's our 10th wedding anniversary.
So we can say behind a successful woman there is a man.
In my case, yes, and everybody finds their strength from something, and I'm really lucky that I've had that. My strength comes from having this incredibly supportive network around me, and it's something that I've always felt very blessed by. This I'm the sort of person that I can, I've had prenatal depression in years when I, especially my first child. And I'm saying the sort of person that kind of goes through highs and lows naturally. I'm quite an extreme of emotion, whereas Mark's a much more level person. So we sort of balance each other out. From
Obviously, we'd like to give us thanks to Mr. Henson from all our viewers. So because of him, we can see a lady male and a successful woman actually today. But the most important thing is, which is you shared, like your family. Your family, they are like the backbone of your success today, which is very rare nowadays. We can see a number of the broken families.
The internet broke up slightly again then, but I got as far as you say about the broken families, and yes, there are but
I mean in general.
I mean, I would say that family shapes and forms. From blended families, single parents, from families from all different walks of life, and your families don't have to be your biological people around you. They're just the people that are your closest support network. And that's something that I am really, really lucky. I've got Mark, I've got my parents, I've got my sister, my brother-in-law, and my two wonderful boys. And again, I said about giving birth just before the election, and it's not an ideal scenario. It's not something you'll ever get this new, incredibly life-changing role at the same time as having just a life change because you become a parent as well. But I wouldn't change either of them for the world, and it's so influenced everything I've done since I've been a counsellor. Because when you become a parent for the first time, whether it's from giving birth, become on that role, parent. It's like it shifts your entire worldview. It's not gravity holding you to the earth anymore. It's that responsibility, and that kind of responsibility of having the ultimate gut responsibility for another human being makes you. It's only made me a far better counsellor than I would have been without it, because it makes me understand, in a very real sense, the longevity of decisions that you are making, and the fact that decisions you're making will have an impact for people for decades to come, potentially.
So obviously, it is a big challenge for you because you were a counselor, but before that you were a wife, you were a mom of two kids, you have a family. So how did you manage all these things, equally, and same time while you became a mayor, you have more responsibility on your shoulders? So in that moment, how did you manage all these things? Because number of women, they want to do something, but sometimes they didn't know how to do it. Sometimes they started, but because of they don't have any plan, they messed up. So I think you can give the message to especially the women, the young women, how they can manage all
Well,
these things.
and anecdotally and in a very light-hearted way, this helps. Actually, you can. This is from. I work in IT. That's my background. But sometimes just visual aids help, and that's just a practical planning out your week. But seriously, and from say on a more serious note, you have to have certain rules. There are certain things where you make sure that there are a certain amount of time a week for everything. But a lot of it comes from a sort of belief that you might not, that for any reason you might not be able to do it. Which, just trust me, you can. Everybody can have their cake and eat it. You can be a pet. You can be a working woman, and you can have a family. Half of the problems come from society having demands, particularly on women, and this expectation where you can be criticised for having a family, for not having a family, for having what is right for you is right for you, and don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do both if that's what you want. And that's not very helpful in terms of practical stuff. But again, in my particular case, it's leading on family that's made a big difference in terms of making that transition. But a lot of it does come from the belief that it is okay to want multiple things, and there's not.
So during your duty, like while you're serving the people, that time your kids, you have a two lovely boy, they will miss you.
They
How was it?
do,
How's
and
the experience?
there are times when they make you feel incredibly guilty. Just went upstairs, my husband's cooking dinner for them tonight. Again, I'm not. I prepared the vegetables, but that's it. But from mummy, I really wish you didn't have to go to work. And then they make you feel kind of like, but they on the same score, they are pretty proud. And Theo, the older one, from the younger one's a little bit too small to really understand the significance of what mummy does for a living. But the 7-year-old, it's just brilliant. And when I took over from the role back in July, his school obviously took the opportunity to then do quite a lot of work on from local government and civic duty and stuff like that because of the timing of it. So he became a big from playground celebrity for about a month. Like, we learned about your mum this week.
So that was good. So now he doesn't make any more complaint because he became a little celebrity now. That's good.
Yeah, he got something out of it. So I mean, he has his moments, and there are moments when I really wish you didn't have to work still and stuff like that. And the other thing, purely anecdotally, other kids' programs are available before I mention the next one. But he was a massive fan of Paw Patrol, and there being a mayor meant that he had a cult, which we could explain.
But the one thing is like what we want to know, because when you became a mayor, when you take over, that time it was a very crucial time for the country, and I think you were part of the history, like when you became a mayor, like how did. So what was your experience in that time? And obviously you said you were end of your time. So how did you manage all these things? We want to know this experience because it's quite exceptional.
In my particular case, I was definitely helped by my background in IT. So obviously, from becoming I got nicknamed the Croydon's first virtual mayor. So having a great, from reasonable experience with working with different types of technology was very much an advantage. It's certainly particularly an advantage in full council. I don't know if viewers know, one of the most important duties that a mayor does is that they are a chair of all full council meetings. They sit there and judge and make sure that everybody and all sides involved get a fair hearing. And obviously with COVID, it was no way it was ever safe. It was safe for councillors to meet in person, particularly. I mean, you take Croydon as a good example. We've got an absolutely incredible and beautiful council chamber, but it's to get all 70 councillors into the chamber, you pack them in. So there's no way that could have been done socially distanced. Consequently, it was always going to be online. And from learning. Not only you've got to be in charge of the technology, but you've got to also developed a new style of rules, and from in terms of kind of how you approach fair chairing in that situation. The other particular challenge was obviously an image of a mayoralty is it's very much an old-fashioned concept. It's all you'd envisage a mayor in the old-fashioned robes and chains, and it feels like something slightly out of the previous centuries. And though the offices obviously have had to move with time, the tendency is still very much for it to be a little bit behind. So one of the first things I had to do was to move the whole office and the way the mayoralty worked into the 21st century. Even little things like there's some paperwork that you have to fill in if you want to invite the mayor to an event. They're called the mayoral pro formas. We had to completely rewrite a pro forma to allow for a scenario where it might be in a virtual event. Just as a very good example, or you wanted, if I wanted to promote some of the people and the kind of doing exceptional things in Croydon, I decided to set up my own YouTube channel. Viewers are very welcome to follow. We don't do payment walls in Croydon. At least the mayoralty doesn't. And I've interviewed as many people as I can on that channel, and I'm very happy to continue doing so. That particular event, out of interest, was from my predecessor mayor's inaugural dinner, and you can see that the boys by that stage were just beginning to get a little tired. No.
Especially at the night, where it's a late evening. So, and if we can see the prime example on that. But one thing we want to know, like, because of this, the virtual things, you have a gap between.
Can you say that again? I got as far as gap, but that was the last word I heard.
So we want to know about the gap between you and the public, because most of the time mayor used to visit to the public, they listen and they talk about their plans and all these things. But because of all the restrictions and lockdown, do you think it has a gap between between the mayor and the public?
I've done everything I could to try and limit any potential gap, and I've made myself available in every way I possibly can, and capitalised on all of the technology society that we've developed as ways to reach out to the people. And certainly, some of the events that I've been able to put on that have, for obvious reasons, had to be virtual. In an odd way, actually, you could say have had a bigger audience than they might have had if they were in person. And one of the things I'm particularly proud of that I did was I did a panel discussion with some influential key people in Croydon, hosted by St Christopher's and by Croydon University Hospital, about people's experiences of death and dying. And considering the year we've had, it's the fact that it's historically been a taboo subject, I was quite keen to help people break down the barriers of having those conversations. So we had several people tell their own experiences, myself included, and how that influenced you about losing loved ones. And an event like that, I would have been really chuffed if we'd had enough to kind of have a spattering of people in Braithwaite Hall come along to it in a normal world, and yet we actually had over 300 people view it because it was broadcast on paper. So you physically can't go to.
But one thing which is
more.
Yeah, one thing we had seen, it's not only for you, for all these the leaders, the public, it's quite challenging time due to the COVID. So what is the biggest challenge you have faced during your mayoral time, and how do you serve your community come out from the big challenge of the COVID-19?
The biggest challenge has been, again, I talked about bringing the role into the 21st century and trying to understand what the job of the mayor is during this time. And when back last year, when it became clear what was coming, we began to understand in our hearts what was coming. And this was before I took a few months before I should take over as mayor. I remember talking to my aunt and saying that I'd never felt my oath of office more strong, as more of a weight than I had at that moment, because there's a sort of understanding that you have that people need their leaders in any way, shape, or form during times of crisis rather than any other time. And I can acknowledge that even at my lowest of low levels in terms of leadership, the responsibility that was going to come with that was quite extraordinary. In terms of the biggest challenges, again, it's about understanding how you're able to offer that leadership in a time when what I would have understood a way, which is calling a public meeting, which is organising people, and it's going and speaking to people, providing motive speeches, providing kind of like direct stuff, leadership, how that would then transfer into a world when you are physically not allowed to be with people. I think it's so helpful by the fact that technology was just about, and I emphasize just about, ready to make that a leap to allow us to keep having conversations like we are now. But understanding how you provide leadership with that separation. And we'd love, with the picture we've got on the moment, that's from one of my fellow councillors, Stephen, that's on screen with me. That was before, just before we were elected. We used to be ward colleagues at that point, just before, shortly after that. We're in a room together. Just having, just as much as I'm very happy, just be a little careful. I have to be politically neutral. But it's actually providing a very good example, because that's the politics that I understood. That's getting people in a room, talking to them, providing that leadership and making decisions collectively. That's how I was taught to do this job. That's how I understand politics at its best. How that can work in a world where that is something we absolutely not do is a very surreal, different way of looking at it. I suppose a kind of lot more light-hearted on one level, more serious than others. The Croydon has gone through challenges of our own, particularly above what some other areas have dealt with, and that's meant that there's been more full council meetings than there has been in any other year in Croydon's history. So on top of everything, I'm having to adjust to understand how the mayoralty would work virtually. I've had to do it more times than any of my predecessors.
But
that was
the
the
thing
last
is, like,
election.
what is the main things, the big challenge you have faced during the COVID time, and how did you manage it? Because you never prepared for these things, because we used to prepare like what other mayors did, but when these things came, it was totally new, and 10 months gone. So how did you manage this big challenge and overcome it?
Well, weirdly, again, I keep drawing on the photographs that are on the screen when we're having this conversation. That was the last set of local elections. That was the first time that I was presented with a scenario politically that I had never planned for. I've got this honour of being part of the only split ward in the whole of Croydon. Myself and my ward colleague, Councillor Baines, are from different parties. And that strange expression on my face in that photograph was where I was just trying to understand what that meant. And again, it was like completely throwing to a scenario that just had not even occurred to me. You're prepared for losing. I prepared for us both, myself, my ward colleague, my running mate winning. I hadn't really prepared for that scenario. So that was the first, though it's nothing when compared to the kind of scale of the problems and challenges that we've experienced this time. It was psychologically, I could draw some parallels. The one advantage I did have was because of it being delayed. So the time between March last year and July when I took over, I did have some serious amount of time to think about it. So I made sure that everything I had technology at home was up to scratch. And I had quite a lot of conversations with the office about what do we do. But the biggest challenge was trying to understand how what the role is in a time when you can't go and do as many physical events as you would like. Having said that, the one we've got on the screen at the moment, it's funny, I can still find myself feeding off of the pictures as you're showing me. The Reading Roadshow was one of the things I was able to do in person. That was the first event that I put on as mayor. And that was during the kind of low time in the summer last year when it was safe to do so. And we got a from Think Events, which you can see their logo on the flyer. They were able to do an event in a COVID where we same pub separated with flat and listen to local Croydon authors read their stories. So again, that was the time when restrictions were not at their tightest, when they began to loosen rather the first time. But even then, we still had to do an event in such a different way from what you would have done before COVID. And we had to have all these extra security and safety measures in place, even for that during that short period of time. Weirdly, though, the other side is about technology is that you're never. I mean, as mayor, you're very rarely off duty anyway, because I mean, so if someone needs my help as a local councillor or as mayor, I will move heaven and earth to do what I can to help them. That's just what I do. But if you decide to go on holiday, for example, and you go to where I went for my 1 week's off holiday this year, you are then effectively actually on holiday. And yet, with the events are virtual, you can do those from anywhere. So I've not really, you can't actually switch off when now things are online. Just again, as I think quickly, the picture on the screen at the moment, I should pay tribute to my absolutely wonderful deputy, who's there along the other person apart from myself and Mark on the screen, Sherwin Chowdhury, who's going to be taking over as mayor after I finish doing this role. He's another person that's been incredibly supportive and wonderful during my time as mayor. And I've had the benefit of not only just an incredible family, but an incredibly supportive team. Sherwin and my staff in my office have been brilliant. And they've had to deal with the challenges exactly the same way as I've had. So I dot my hat to them completely.
To be successful, we can't do anything by myself. We can do by ourselves, and that's why we need a good team. And this is the only way, and that's why we need to work together. So we're going to go for a short break, then we'll come back. Please stay with us, and thanks for your time to listen. We'll be back soon. Thank you.
I had the honour of being elected as the Mayor of Croydon, the town that gave me life and has made me what I am today. I'm here now to say a little bit about what I'm going to do with that privilege. I've chosen 3 charities which I'll be supporting. St Christopher's, which have helped my family on so many occasions, and we owe a huge debt of gratitude to. Motor Neurone Disease Association. Both of my grandmothers suffered with MND. It's, to my way of thinking, one of the worst ways imaginable to die. It rips from you the power to speak, to eat, to move, and eventually to breathe, whilst leaving your brain completely intact, and there is no cure for it. And finally, Home Start Croydon. They are a wonderful charity, whom I love. They work with families with children under 5 at times when they most need support. In keeping with their mission, last night I said there is nothing more important to me than our children, and I'm going to do everything I can over the next 12 months to prove that. I spoke at length about the challenges that we've all been facing as a society over the last few months, and it made me reflect. A wise author once wrote a scene where their hero was talking to his mentor, and he said, "I wish he had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened." His mentor replied with the following: "So do all who live to see such times, but it's not for them to decide. All that we have to decide is what to do with the time that we are given."
Hello guys, welcome back to my show. Let's talk to make a change, which is we will doing on behalf of the Sunrise today. Today we have a wonderful guest, the Madam Mayor of Croydon, the Councillor Maddie. And what we heard in our first half an hour, how she became a mayor and the challenges she had as a mom, as a wife, as a colleague. And this thing actually will gonna be inspire us, especially our women, to join in the mainstream. Same time, stay with the family and the friends. And that's why what she said, you need a plan. You have to be dedicated. You have to write it down everything, because she has two kids, and just the important things which she said, she became a mom, I think, after 10 months of her when she became the counselor, and now she became the mayor of Croydon as the youngest woman in Croydon. And so this is the things. So that's why we need a proper plan, especially for our women. And not only that, what she said to came in this position was her husband, who had played a big role as a supportive man. So we need a supportive man, supportive husband who can help and push her wife to move on. And same time, we need a very supportive family, which is, she said, her dad was part of the political party, so which is really inspiring. The main thing is, while she was growing as a child and as a student, she wants to do something. She wants to make something. So she involved with the politics. She became the counselor. So that's why, especially my program is dedicated to all our young people who wants to do something. So you can, if you want to do something, this is the time you have to make a plan, and then it will be easier for you to do something. Because sometimes we have a big dream, but we don't know how to do it because we never had any proper plan. So I hope that my guest is here.
Say again.
Yes, hi, Councillor Maddie Henson, the Madam Mayor of the Croydon. Just I was talking about the reflections, what we had in the first half, because what you said while you were growing as a child, when you were a student, that time you had some plan, you want to do something, and this is the way you moved out, and what you said just behind you, you made your plan. So this is very important for our young people, because sometimes they want to do lots of things, but they never had a proper plan. And sometimes they said, "Oh, I want to do something, but I can't do," and that's why we we try to pledge them that please make
Yeah.
a plan. If you want to do something in your life, nothing is going to be happen overnight, especially as a woman. What you did is really incredible. And obviously, the last month, the International Women's Day, we just passed it. So we want to know more about that, because still in 2021, we didn't have the equal rights, the men and the women, in the pays and other things. So, what is your view on that for the women's the right and the activities, please?
You've obviously touched on the fact that I'm the youngest woman to do this role, which is something I'm incredibly honoured to do. But there's absolutely no reason why I should be the youngest. I'm still in my mid-30s. There are plenty. You can become a counsellor when you're 18. So it's a role and a honour that I'm really looking forward to relinquishing to the next much younger person that takes on the role. But one thing I often reflect on is in 2018, I stood on an all-women ticket, which means that the people that put themselves forward from my party to be councillors in my seat were both women. That was considered noteworthy. That was unusual. And when you've 100 years to the day from when women were first given the vote, for it still to be unusual, for it to be all women that are standing in a councillor's seat gave me quite a lot of pause for thought. And I think there is still a massive problem of underrepresentation of women in politics in particular, and in leadership roles generally. A stat that always sticks with me: there's been more CEOs of top 100 companies called John than there have been women in total. There is still this very much underrepresentation of women generally in positions of leadership, and that is just not good enough.
So we want to know, sorry for interrupting, we want to know
No.
why it is not good enough, because we can see there's lots of talk about that women support, and there being lots of support for the women in 2021 and the Western country. We should move on, but still, why we struggle after all these things?
And if I could answer that question in detail, I think that we might be some way to resolving the problem. And there is still, and we've been spending an awful lot of time talking about unconscious bias, and there is still a tendency towards kind of in recruitment, for example, from names influencing who you invite for interviews. There's a degree of that, but I think, and society is still, despite the best efforts of people of all ages, genders, religions, backgrounds, faiths, to the contrary, from a predisposition to give men positions of power. It's just in the psyche. I think there's a degree of that. And also, I think, drawing us back to where we started again about this idea about people have that somehow you can be a career woman or you can be a mother, and that the two, one should interfere with the other. I've been really lucky. I have genuinely been able to have both and have a success in both. But people do have this idea that it is one or the other, and it just doesn't have to be the case. And there's been so much progress in the last sort of few years, but it's still a long way to go. And that's just within the from Britain. Around the world, it's far, far worse. And we still see societies, and some societies that are so based, whole cultures based on gender and inequality of gender.
Yes, sometimes actually, sorry for just I want to add one thing. Supporting that women will come on and they will take over all these things, or they have a lack of knowledge, or what is the main thing?
I'm not sure how qualified I am to answer that, because I think from
your experience,
there's a degree, and I think there's a degree of an assumption of assumed roles. I think there's a degree of that, and again, I keep coming back to the fact that my family couldn't have been further from that. But there is an assumption in people, this idea about the kind of like, you fit into that box and you fit into that box, and in your mind it's very strange someone that doesn't want to fit in the box that society might predispose for them for. And certainly I'm kind of like my dad did from the kind of father of the bride speech when I got married, and the opening line my mum came out with was, "Those who know Maddie know she's not the most conventional of people, so we're going to be unconventional as well." And I'm going to do the best from the speech. So it was that can be. I've been lucky. Again, I've had nothing but support in everything that I've wanted to achieve from people, the loved ones, and from people around me. I genuinely have, but not people. A lot of people don't have that luxury, and I think that can be a bit. If they have this idea of the preconceived, or if they aren't able, for whatever reason, to provide you the support that I've had the privilege of having, that can be a particular difficulty.
So this is the big message actually, which is we got from you, the genuine support from all of your friends and the family, and which is we really need actually. And
yes,
because without support, we can't do anything. And this is the way we can support from the family, from our community, from our society, and for the country. Because that's why I said, like, we can't do anything else by myself, but we can do something ourselves, and that's why we should work on.
Yes, I agree. I truly believe no one's an island. I think that is very much the case. And if there's one lesson that I personally would take from the experiences of the last year during the pandemic, it's the fact that it's the community working as a whole that has got us through this time. I've seen people in Croydon and around the world do unbelievable acts of heroism, just ordinary, everyday people that have really gone above and beyond just because it's their duty to their community. And it's that makes a difference. They say it takes a community to raise a baby. And it was a good moment to finish on the children. That's from my wedding day, all the children that came to our wedding.
One thing which is we want to know from you mainly because you were end of your term. So obviously, within the last 10 months, I know it was a big challenge, but as a woman, you take over and hopefully you're going to win this challenge after end your term. So what was your main activities, and at the moment what you are doing? We want to know more about your mayoral plans, your activities, your charity work.
My biggest priority as mayor was championing children and young people, in particular early life. I hear say come back to the experiences of giving birth just before becoming a councillor. That's my youngest at his naming ceremony. You can see in that photo. Meant that's what I've specialised in. That's what I've championed, and that's what I've devoted my entire political career to, is being the voice for someone that was in the same situation as I was, becoming a parent at a difficult and a challenging time in your life, or just becoming a parent, because being a parent is a challenge. It's always going to be some of the hardest moments you experience. At the moment, I've got 3 more events that I'm going to do before I finish as mayor, that I'm organising. The first of these is on Friday. It's going to be with a group of people that I've working with, and they're going to tell their stories and experiences of coming out as from LGBTQ. From the other 2 events, I'm doing something called the Mayor's Baby and Toddler Festival, and I've got a timetable of events put on by Croydon-based baby and toddler groups around the borough, and they're going to do virtual taster sessions of all of their groups, and the idea being encouraging particularly families that have become families during the pandemic to see what opportunities are out there, what groups are out there for them in Croydon, and help them to socialise in the way that they would have been taken from them during this last year. And the final one, and this is the final bit of charity work I'm doing an online murder mystery evening from a theatre group called Volition, which was founded by my cousin, have written and are going to be performing a unique murder mystery evening. It's £10 a ticket, and you'll get a full evening's entertainment out of it, and you might even solve a murder in the process. So please come along, and we're trying to raise as much money for my 3 wonderful chosen charities that you heard about in the break as possible. Thank you.
So at the moment, we want to know more about your team, who is working with you to make a successful year for you, because it is very important, because obviously you have a really supportive team. So what is their plan and their future plan?
Well, I should name them from starting. The manager of the team is she manages all of the people that work for the mayor's office, and under Stephanie, at the start of my mayoral year, I had 3 members of staff underneath her. Hemma, who's the diary secretary and manages all of the incoming emails. You've been dealing with talking to Hemma. There's also and also I had support from 2 mace bearers, and for those that don't know, the mace bearer is like the mayor's attendant. My dad calls them my butlers. Their job is to be whatever the mayor needs them to be, just to be that support for them because it's such an extraordinary experience. And in an odd sort of way, Nick, the chief mace bearer, has been almost like a second father from when I've been, and just that little bit of emotional support, practical and sensible advice when you are thrown into scenarios that are so completely new to you. And they and the other assistant mace bearer, who left the team in the summer, is called Luca. They are incredible. Now, I genuinely, and I did my farewell address to council on Monday, and I spent quite a bit of time praising the work they do and the support that they've been. I've just realised, by the way, how dark it is. I'm just going to put the light on, so give me 2 seconds.
Please. Yeah, please.
That's a bit better. You can see you all now.
Thank you.
So they were, I can't praise them highly enough. And in terms of what their future plan is, I mean, they are whatever the mayor needs them to be. So that'll be whatever Sherwin wants the role to look like when he takes over.
So obviously, the Croydon, there's enough people, the community from all backgrounds and all these things. So how's your work? How do you work with people from all backgrounds as a mayor of Croydon at the moment?
Well, I always saw that the role of the mayor is to be whatever, again, I'm back to what I said about Nick being whatever a mayor needs to be. The role of the mayor is to be whatever people need them to be in that moment. Whether it's to be a community leader, whether it's to be a champion, whether it's to be a supportive, whether it's just to turn up and have fun. That's another mayor's fundraiser, that particular photo. I love, really lovely evening at Christmas. So every community and every engagement and every experience, someone needs something different of you. And so above everything else, I've tried to give myself and all of myself to the role, and hopefully there'll be some part of me that will be of use and support to people in that moment. And every community from every background, I'll be what I can be. And that again, one sort of like experience. Some of the photographs you're putting up, was taken at the anniversary of the tram derailment. Again, normally that's a very big event because there's so many people that quite understandably want to pay tributes to the victims that lost their lives as a result of that. That we tried to do that in a smaller scale way as we possibly could. I just went to it and just paid my own private respects and delivered the flowers. It was a very poignant feeling just standing there, just looking at the names and marking the date for those that tragically lost their life. And again, that in that moment, what the community needs them, I at least think they need the mayor to be, is to be kind of chief mourner as well. And they need the mayor to be able to show that I was moved and I was feeling, even after all those years, quite a few years, still very, very choked up by that experience.
So what is your, obviously after the mayoral term, what is your future plan as a politician?
I've just found out that I'm going to be taking on the role for the deputy cabinet member for children, young people and learning, which I am absolutely thrilled about. It's the role that I really wanted. I'm really, really pleased.
Yes, sir. We can see there's number of pictures with the kids. That means kids loves you when you love the kids. So that's why we need actually more people, more ladies actually like you. So we're going to end soon our program, but before that, I want to point out a few things. What is the main challenges you had faced, and how you overcome, from which our young people there will learn from you?
A few times I've put the message: don't ever be guided by other people's view of you. If you want to do something, you can. You choose your future, not other people. Try and surround yourself with good people and people that matter and that will support you, but believe that you are capable in it. No one from the outside would think that a working class girl from South Norwood would end up becoming the youngest woman ever to be mayor of Croydon. But I've had the honour of my life that I have been able to do that. And if I can do it, you definitely can.
And after this, your mayoral term, obviously you said what you were going to do it, but same time, you're going to keep serving all these local communities and the charities?
Yes, every way I can. In any way I can support the charities and the communities, I always will. I like to go to think when I go to bed at night, today I did something that mattered. Today I justified my existence as a human being, the air that I breathed, the CO2 that I produced. My day had meaning, and if I can feel that, then I'm happy. Meaning, and that's a very broad concept. So having meaning could have been just the fact that my children needed me today, or it could have been that I raised thousands of pounds of charity and everything in between. But if I can just feel like I've lived a worthwhile and a meaningful life, and very much part of that is carrying on serving the community for as long as they want me to.
But before you became a mayor, what was your dream? And while you became a mayor, do you think like you had your bits, had a chance to balance your dream?
When I was first involved in politics, I used to have this idea that I wanted to be an MP one day. That was kind of the peak that I kind of wanted my career to do. And I used to work in Parliament in the earlier days of my working in politics. But I'm not ruling it out, but it's certainly not top of my list now. For starters, I personally feel that Croydon is very well served with our MPs that we've got. They are very dedicated and extraordinarily hardworking people, and I'm very, very close to two of them. So I personally couldn't lose the touch and the closeness that comes with being a local councillor. That's what I enjoy most, being able to go around. And this is one of the most frustrating things about COVID. I like going around to someone's house, putting my arm around them and talking to them and understanding what their challenge is and trying to help between us working out a solution to that problem. Obviously, I have to be a bit careful. I won't get into details, but there's one particular bit of casework that I dealt with very, very soon after I was elected for the first time that will stay with me for, I suspect, the rest of my life. And I remember thinking, tragically, it didn't have a very happy ending, but what I was able to do was provide some support for the person towards the end of the stage, and I couldn't bear not being able to do that. So that's where I'll always be. That's what I'll always try to do, is give people that comfort.
This is the things we agree with you, your dream, because we need in future, we don't know what is going to be happen, but we should have the dream, and we need a person like you in the parliament as an MP, because you've grown up, you work as a councillor, you serve as a mayor, story, different issues and all these things, but the way you're coming, the way you are progressing, it is going to be very useful for you one day when you become an MP, because it will help you to become successful as an MP, because we have a number of MPs, but we haven't seen much successful, or we haven't seen like with the mayor for public. Sometimes they go to the parliament, we never seen. So that's why actually our best wishes for you. One day we want to see you in the Westminster. And
maybe one day. And I just would say that it's certainly not my experience of the MPs from Croydon. There are some that are clearly not up to scratch, but my experience, I've had the pleasure of working with some that are very much not that. They are from a dedicated, hardworking people, and they're all from Croydon. They're all Croydonians. They live in Croydon. They are Croydon.
Yes, they're living the Croydon, but all the space, is not permanent for all of us. So they need some replacement. And what is the main thing, the big challenge? To replace with the right people, and who can take over the challenge, and who had the experience. And we need more people like you, actually. And that's why, obviously, time will say. But the most important thing is we must have a dream, and we must have the plan, and rest of the things time will say. So before end the program, we want to hear from you, your message to the people of the Croydon, as and also our viewers, especially our young people, and who wants to make some change.
Well, the first thing I would say is thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I have been so blown away by the heroism I've seen of Croydonians for the last year, and if my being mayor during this challenging time has been able to help in any small way, then it has been an absolute honour to have served. In terms of what message I'd like to leave to people that might be thinking about doing this job, safe and look after yourselves, and one day you will be your dream. Thank you.
Sorry, just for due to the net problem, I think we missed something. If you don't mind, if you repeat a few words, sorry.
Obviously, sorry. Apologise. From one of the challenges we're talking about modern technology. All I was saying is that if I could be mayor of my hometown, if I could live my dream, then you can too. Never just assume that the box that others want to put you in is where you belong. You belong where you want to, and you choose your future. So use your support network, use your loved ones, and you decide what you want to do with your life.
So thank you very much. Thanks again, the Madam Mayor of Croydon Councillor Maddie Henson, and for your time and to share your experience, your memory, and your loved one with all of us. And I hope to make a change in the real life. And same time, we're gonna best wishes for you, for your future plan, and for your family. And special thanks to your man, Mr. Hanson. Because of his support today, you are here, and we want to see more men like that who can make a happy family and the meal. So thank you very much. Thanks for all our viewers to stay with us to hear our program. So hopefully we're gonna see you again. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Bye.